Hello and welcome to the show. This is the Max Maher YouTube channel and the Sweaty Startup Podcast. We are doing a lot of joint ventures here today in Athens, Georgia. Thanks for coming out, Max.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So we both own businesses that do multiple millions of dollars a year in revenue, and they're service businesses. They're labor-intensive businesses. They both involve moving stuff. Mine's student moving and storage, and yours is residential and commercial moving and storage. We're going to talk about a couple things that we did in the very early days that took it from a really stressful business. And you get this a lot. I see this all the time with service businesses, these business owners that are stressed out. They are running around. They're not making that much money. They're working all the time, working 80, 90 hours a week. They don't spend time with family. And all they're doing is putting out fires.
Yeah, it's a classic 80-20. 80% of them are making no money and are all stressed. The 20% are able to take vacations, able to take a month off, making good money.
Yep. We're somewhere in between, I would say.
Yeah.
We're getting there. But
by choice, though.
Exactly. Honestly, I work a lot now because I like it.
Yeah.
So I could remove myself a little bit more than I already am.
Same. So we're going to talk about a shift that Nick made in his business that turned it from $350,000 a year to $3 million a year. And it was a pretty simple realization.
Yeah, the realization was that everything that goes wrong in my business, with my customers, with my employees, is my fault. And that sounds really silly, but in the early days, I vividly remember sitting back with my partner, and we'd be having a beer on a Friday night after a long week, and all we were doing was complaining. We were the victims. Our employees were crappy. Our trucks were unreliable. Our customers weren't ready when we were showing up. And it was brutal. It was stressful. We were always complaining. We were always pointing fingers at, okay, these customers here are at this school are a pain in the butt. They're not ready for us. These employees, I can't believe they go to Ivy League schools because they can't even follow directions or do anything that we tell them to do. And one day we're like, do you realize what we're doing? We are the owners of this business. We're making the decisions here. It's our fault.
Yeah,
so
seems simple.
My partner Dan and I, who hopefully will come on a show with us today while he's around, we looked at each other and we said, okay, no more complaining. When you complain and you blame something else, I'm going to say, no, it's your fault. And when I complain and I blame something else, you're going to tell me, hey, Nick, it's your fault that this happened. And number one was the employees. I think every service business owner, and Max, I want you to talk about this stuff too, because you've been through all this same stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's the employees always. You talk to any service business owner, anybody who's stressed out, they look at you and say, I can't find anybody who's willing to work hard.
No one can find good work.
Nobody in America today wants to work hard.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to work hard. All kids want to play video games. They want to go study liberal arts. Nobody wants to work.
Yeah.
And I was one of those people.
A million times.
I was one of those people. I would say that. My family would ask me how I was doing at Christmas, and I would say, finding employees is brutal. I don't know how we're going to do it. And this is back when we were not earning that much money. Like I said, about $350,000 in revenue. And, yeah, we were just pointing fingers. So then we took a deep breath. We looked back in the off season. I love the seasonality of these businesses because in the off season, you can really digest what happened. You can look back at what went on and you can say, all right, what can I do better? What can I change? And we looked at all the things that we were doing wrong, and it turned out we were doing a lot of things wrong. So we can talk about a couple of those.
Yeah. Simple. When you start taking the blame, you realize, okay, if this is my fault, what can I do to correct it? And there's always solutions. There's always things to try.
Yeah, and the main one was that our employees were one of the reasons why was that our employees weren't showing up. Our employees weren't showing up for work. And we looked at, okay, what are we doing to notify the employees of their schedules? And this is kind of embarrassing to talk about. And it may be, if you don't own a service business, it may be really simple for you to say, well, yeah, that's ridiculous. Why would you ever do that? But we were sending schedules to our employees a day before or 2 days before they were working. Mm-hmm. And we were following up by text message the night before, confirming. And sometimes when we were really, really busy, we'd be texting employees to find out if they could work a shift the next day. Yeah. And I know that so many service businesses maybe won't admit that, but I was there and I was doing that.
Yeah, that's very common. I can empathize with that.
Yeah, and turns out employees hate that. And turns out employees want to know when they're going to work. They want to know when they're going to work about a week out because their friends want to hang out, their families want to do things, they have significant others. It's not good. So we made a point to, okay, let's plan for our busy season. And my business is a pickup and delivery student storage business. So we do all of 95% of our business in a 2-week time frame in May. So we go from having back when this was going on, we went from having me and Dan as the only employees, me and my partner, to about 25 or 30 part-time employees during the busy season. So we said, okay, let's look at our data last year. Let's look at how many customers we got. Let's look at how much we grew last year. Let's think about best case scenario, how much we're going to grow, and let's staff for that. Let's staff for the best case scenario, and let's go ahead and lay out when they're going to work and how they're going to work. And let's go ahead and make the schedules. Let's go ahead and figure out how many employees we need on each truck. And let's go ahead and tell them 2 weeks in advance that we're going to need them on these days.
Right.
And
Seems simple.
It was a miracle.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they worked. And all of a sudden, they showed up. And all of a sudden, people not showing up for shifts decreased by 80%. So
It's crazy.
that was
and
number
that was
one.
your biggest issue in the business?
Well, the second one was the kids. I say kids, I shouldn't say that. They were college students running our business. They were out on the truck and they were messing up invoices. They were just messing up. They were just causing a lot of problems. They were getting behind on schedule. They were creating invoices wrong. Because creating the invoice wrong is a huge problem for us because that's how we get our money. They were miscategorizing the sizes of the items. They were forgetting things. They were mislabeling items. They weren't putting them in the truck correctly. They weren't taking them to the warehouse correctly. And then we started to break that down. And we said, okay, these kids are not idiots. What can we do to make this simpler? And what can we do to help this all flow better? And it turned out we were trying to get them to be good at 25 things. Literally, they had a tablet. This was back before cell phones were good enough and fast enough to run it themselves. So we had an LTE tablet. And on the back of that tablet, it had a Post-it note, like a list of 23 things to remember to do when you show up at a customer. Number one, call the customer. Number two, if the customer calls you, you got to be able to answer these questions. Number three, to create the invoice, first you got to make the labels, and then you got to take pictures of the items, and then you got to load the truck, then you got to drive to the warehouse, then blah, 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 blah. 23 things they had to do. And what I know now is that if you ask an employee to be really good at more than 5 things, it's over.
Yeah.
They just cannot do everything that we were asking them to do. So our training was a 45-minute intricate training video that they had to watch 3 times to understand. The hiring was a pain in the butt because actually training them in person was darn near impossible. If somebody quit, it was really, really hard to get somebody to come and replace them because they had to be good at 25 things.
Oh, yeah.
So it made everything, it was compounding problem. Everything got harder. So we simplified it. We simplified the job and we took it down and said, okay, what can we take these drivers and take off their plate? What can we make it so that we don't have to train them how to do? And we just said, is this every list on that 23 items? My partner and I sat down and we said, is that absolutely necessary for this guy out on this truck to be doing? And if the answer was yes, it stayed. If the answer was no, we found a way to take it off. So number one, customer service. Is it absolutely necessary that that guy knows how to answer customer service? No, it's not. We can have a person working from anywhere in the country on their computer, on a cell phone that he directs calls to. So every one of them had, next thing we knew, every one of them had a business card in their back pocket where they could hand and say, if you have any questions, call this number. And then that solved that entire training. That took out 15 minutes of the training video. The next one was pricing. We had to train all of these students to price items. And, oh, that's a large item, and that's $49.99. And, oh, that's an extra large, and that's $59.99. And we decided that, okay, let's find somebody else to do that. So instead of doing all that, it was take a picture of the items. Take a picture of it. That's what it turned into. And then somebody on a computer, wherever, would look at all the photos and get really, really good at doing that one thing. And they would make all the invoices for the whole company, that one person.
So would they do that while they're on the job? They'd take a picture,
Just
send
take a
it
picture.
quick, then they'd send
Well, it would
back
upload
price
into the
right
app,
away.
yeah. So their only job was to take the photo, and then it would go automatically into our system so that somebody else could handle the rest.
So when does the price get sent back to the customer?
Right away. The other person who's specializing it in one location was getting photos from all of our branches.
Okay, so they just banged it out real quick.
They were doing it all.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
So basically, every employee specialized. We would create an employee to specialize in invoicing the customers. We'd create a customer service specialist. Then we had them also driving back and doing warehousing, and we took that off their plate. So that there was a guy specifically that was trained to only do warehousing, and he got really good at warehousing. So when we broke it down and simplified it, it was absolutely amazing.
So what do you say to the people who's like, I can't afford to hire 3 extra people to do all these jobs?
I would say simplify your service that you're offering. I would say don't try to be a jack of all trades and offer service in 40 different categories.
Right.
I would say get really, really good at one thing that you can train somebody on how to do. That's the only way you're going to be able to build a scalable business.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to do window cleaning, carpentry, car cleaning, pressure washing, all this stuff, and you're trying to have an employee learn all that stuff,
Yeah.
it's going to be impossible unless you want to pay them $50 an hour and spend a year training them.
Yeah, not worth it.
Yeah. So what's your experience with that?
I'm constantly trying to simplify things and have systems to do things. As far as movers go, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm.
They got to get in their truck, they got to go wrap the furniture, they got to bring it back or bring it wherever it's going. So that can't be simplified too much. But with my office workers, I'm constantly trying to simplify things. And one thing that I've learned probably too late is to give one job to one person or multiple people, depending on how much work there is to do. In the beginning, I would say, it's your guys' responsibility to do this, you 3, 4, 5, whatever. And that it wouldn't get done because Susie would say, oh, I thought Megan was going to go do it. And then Megan would say, oh, I thought Susie was going to go do it.
Yep.
And then it just wouldn't get done. So what I started doing is say, okay, Susie, this is your job and your job only. That way, if it doesn't get done, I know it's her fault. And just by doing that, it always got done. And then to kind of mitigate a little bit, because we're open 7 days a week, so she's not working every day. Some things need to be done every day. I made a super simple rotating task list that just had names and arrows in a circle. If this person's not here, it's this person's responsibility. If this person's not here, it's this person's responsibility. Basically eliminated all things getting done. Because a while ago, I realized half of my job could basically be taken away with a to-do list app, because it was just mostly me making sure things were getting done. And so I did that, gave people single jobs, and basically took half my workload off.
Beautiful. So you could focus on growing the business and working on those
exactly.
systems. Yeah, it's amazing that when you take less off your plate, and when this happened, it was absolutely amazing. So before we jump into what happened after, you got to understand that everybody faces all these same challenges. Like, it's so easy for you to blame the workforce and blame the economy and blame the fact that commercial real estate is too expensive and the fact that you can't find a warehouse. Every company in your situation is dealing with the same set of circumstances. So the same company that is scaling their roofing business and now has 30 locations and is a multi-million-dollar business, they're in the same economic environment as you, the startup. So it's all about how well you can do these things. Like, if you can't find that good of employees, sometimes you're not recruiting hard enough. You need to spend just as much time recruiting good employees. And we realize that as well. If we don't spend as much time recruiting good employees as we do recruiting customers, then we're not going to be able to deliver on the service that we're offering. So in a tight labor market, you got to spend dollars and you got to spend time getting good people in the door to work for you too.
Yeah. Start off by spending 5 times more before you make a hire.
Yeah. So basically, as soon as we did that stuff, that was about 2013, 2014, we doubled in revenue. 2015, we doubled again. 2016, like, that's when our system became scalable. That's when, like, as soon as we stopped blaming other people and as soon as we took things into our own hands and as soon as we controlled what we could control, which was a lot more than we thought, our business absolutely exploded. And we haven't looked back since. So my piece of advice to anybody out there listening or watching is that you have a lot more control over this stuff than you think you do. As soon as you stop blaming your employees for messing up, and start blaming yourself and changing what you can, things are going to get a lot easier. As soon as you stop blaming Murphy's Law for things going wrong and saying, okay, let's reduce the odds of things going wrong and do what I can do and control what I can control, I just think you're going to be so much better off.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Focus on reducing the odds, because there's still going to be problems that happen, things that come up, one-off events. But yeah, how can I reduce this from happening 25% of the time to 2% of the time?
Yeah, and customers weren't ready for appointments. That was another huge problem. So we said, okay, well, we're not notifying them well enough. So we set up automatic text messages a week before, 4 days before, 1 day before, 6 hours before, and then boom, customers were ready and our trucks were on time way more because we were dealing with customers that were actually prepared and ready for our trucks. And we controlled it. And before that, we were just saying, oh, these college students, they're just procrastinators. They're so tough. When it was us and it was our systems and it was our job to make them ready. As soon as that shifted in our head, we were able to just, okay, let's get it done.
That's awesome.
So that's a rant right there.
Yeah.
But it trickles down to everything. And it's not just service businesses. You can be dealing with suppliers. And if your suppliers are missing deadlines, you look at what you can control. Are you getting them the information they need? Are you reminding them? Are you, vetting your suppliers? It can be anything that you're working on that, your partners, like if you're dealing with a partner, your business partner, and the relationship's not working, like, look at the expectations that you're setting. Yeah. Look at the way that you communicate with them. Look at how you're dealing with it and controlling what you can control in any situation.
And ask too, if your supplier's missing deadlines, say, what can I do in order to make you hit these deadlines? And they're either going to give you something you can do better, or they're going to realize, hey, I need to hit these deadlines because they're counting on us. They're, keeping track of it.
Or it's time to make a move.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many times people milk poor employees. Like, we realized right off the bat that you can control an employee. You can't, like, sometimes there's no improvement on an employee, and you just got to see you later, unfortunately.
Right.
And that took us a while to realize that
Yeah. Fire fast.
you got to fire fast, and we didn't fire fast enough early on.
Yeah.
So.
I had the same issue. I
Mm-hmm.
tried to like work on people and try to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
give them time. Oh, they were good last week. Let's just give them another opportunity. You know.
Another mistake, more money.
Yep.
Yep. And then you're in the same position. So hope it helps somebody out there.
I'm sure it will. Thanks.
Well,